XRP holders, Trump has just made a comment that I actually think is insanely bullish for XRP. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today, because essentially what he said is that the financial system is broken and crypto is going to fix it. And I think a lot of people may be able to read between the lines and see exactly how XRP could fit into this. So we're going to be going on talking all about that today, and then also want to talk about some of the recent movements that we have seen from XRP. It looked like we were trying to attempt a breakout of one of the recent trend lines, or one of the lower level trend line, but we have, at least as of right now, been rejected. It is a daily candle though, so we do have plenty of time if the market does rally. So we're gonna go check out all of that right now. Let's jump in. First off, taking a look at the chart here, we can see, as I was mentioning, we kind of had made that run, and then we've now kind of since been rejected. So, you know, again, maybe we can continue to kind of try and push above this trend line. This would be kind of the first of two trend lines that XRP would need to break for us to see kind of that sustained move to the upside. Again, we've talked about this. I've had a couple of videos in terms of like where we could see past this. If we see this breakout, obviously the first level would be kind of returning to the recent tops that we've seen back up here, like the $3.60 range. And then from there, we could go and actually start taking swings at some all-time highs, which is kind of around that. I think $3.93 is the all-time high for XRP. So that would probably be kind of that next level that we would be looking for. And then from there, of course, we're going to have kind of that psychological level at the $4 mark. But I do think, you know, we could very realistically be on a path to $5. So that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for over the next little while. But at least, of course, first things first, we need to go and make sure that we are able to break through these two levels. If we go down to a lower time frame, you'll be able to see kind of exactly what we were looking at, right? I mean, we had a bit of this like kind of break, settle on this line, bounce up, and then, at least from what it seems to me, some manipulation in the market, immediate dump right down back below this line. So on the daily, it does look like we had, you know, basically just a wick up, which is of course what it was. But if we look at the lower time frames, you can kind of see exactly what was happening here. And of course, have been rejected, but we are very close, again, trying to take more swings at this trend line. So this is going to be a very important thing that we're looking for. And then of course, if we do kind of lose this level and we kind of fall further down, I would expect it for us to kind of drop into this accumulation zone. The first level would kind of be at the $2.77 range. We have seen a lot of support there. If we do break below that, potentially down to the 270 range, and maybe even as low as about $2.65. Any of this I would consider as like the demand zone. I would be looking to see a bounce from here, and then of course, you know, kind of breaking through these two trend lines. So that's what we're looking at on the XRP chart. You can see here we actually do have our XRP trade open still. It is only 2% up, so basically nothing super impressive either direction here. But this is something you can see. I have that loss set at the $2.65 range, or the stop loss, but I am looking to see this break over time. And then if we see that break, of course, you know, this will be a pretty nice move to the upside. What I'm kind of half waiting for is if we get down, let's say, to like this 267, maybe even the $2.70 range in here, I would probably be looking to double my position of XRP and then essentially kind of, you know, hope for that bounce. If we don't see the bounce, then we do hit that stop loss, and we maybe move into a bit of a further move to the downside. But that's at least what I'm seeing right now. We are seeing a lot of manipulation going on in this market, though, as you can see by this massive wick, because we're seeing a lot of speculation about what is actually going on in the US economy and what can we do to fix it. So first off, basically a rate cut is essentially guaranteed at this point. This is going to be something that is going to happen at the September 17th rate cut meeting. So at this point, we could essentially consider 25 basis points of rate cuts effectively priced in. What we can see, though, which is slightly surprising, is there's now a 12.2% chance that we actually see 50 points of basis cuts, which would be actually quite surprising, just kind of given the abrupt shift that we have seen. But there has been a lot of economic data that's come out that indicates that we are maybe not in as good of position as we may have expected, even just a couple weeks back, which is kind of forcing the agenda for some rate cuts here. And so the fact that 50 basis points of rate cuts is on the table here means that we could see, you know, a really strong move. And I think that's probably due to part of the volatility here, is because the market's trying to actually price in, like, how real is this, right? Is there actually a reasonable possibility that we see 50 basis points of rate cuts? Is it higher than 12%? Is it lower than 12%? Who knows for sure, but at least at this point, rate cuts are guaranteed. So the rate cutting cycle starts. The only question that we now need to figure out here is how bad is the economy, right? Because if we're cutting rates into a decent or even healthy economy, then crypto is going to be in a great spot and we would be looking to see XRP absolutely rip. But if we go into a recession because maybe we haven't started the rate cutting cycle early enough, well, then that kind of changes things, right? And that would definitely delay and potentially even cancel an alt season or kind of the remaining piece of this bull run that many of us have kind of been thinking would be possible. So that's mainly what we're looking for here, is what exactly happens. And based on what happens there, then we can kind of figure out where we go from that. So moving along, I did want to show you some really interesting piece of news here that we are seeing from Donald Trump. And this is the announcement that he had made today, essentially regarding the financial system is broken, and he's claiming that that crypto will fix it. So let's go ahead, we'll check this out, and then we will come back after this.
Many Americans are unaware that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state-of-the-art crypto technology. Who would have thought we would have been saying that 2 years after? Many Americans are unaware.
So obviously, as you can see, this is a pretty insane announcement, as John is, in my opinion, pretty rightly pointed out. Sounds like a bullish case for XRP. They're talking about payments, right? Payments is the main thing that they're focusing on. What is probably the most well-established, the most well-known, and the strongest community that involves payments? XRP, right? So this is going to be one that I think long-term is going to be a really big deal, and I think is something that we definitely should be keeping an eye on, because it's very clear the government's got their eyes on it, the regulators have their eyes on it, and we'll have to see exactly, kind of where things go from here. I think this is major news. This is super bullish, particularly for something like XRP. It's huge, right? Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, because I have seen something here, and this is a video I'm trying to get loaded up right now. We're not going to be watching the whole thing here as we go in. We can see there's a video here discussing kind of the difference between RLUSD and XRP. And Black Swan Capitalist has made a pretty interesting point here, specifically talking about the difference between RLUSD and XRP. Here you can see RLUSD and XRP are a true cross-asset solution. Stablecoins aren't the goal, they're a tool to buy government debt. XRP is the liquidity bank bridging assets instantly. No matter what, stablecoins keep driving XRP price up through bridge settlement. This is the thing that I think is very important, and honestly, this is a new claim or a new concept that I hadn't really thought too much about earlier on, which is, yes, stablecoins are kind of the de facto way, and stablecoins are absolutely running things right now, which may on the face seem slightly bearish for XRP, because that's effectively what XRP was meant to do before stablecoins existed. However, as stablecoins or potentially the government debt that is being bridged, because again, keep in mind, RLUSD is literally just a pegged dollar. Well, if the dollar starts to collapse because the government has too much debt, that comes to the next de facto question of, okay, well, what is the next de facto currency, right? Well, that's at which point, if everything is running on XRP, it could be a quick transition to XRP itself. So this is something that I thought is, that kind of Black Swan Capitalist brings up here in a somewhat indirect way. And so I kind of reading between the lines, this is something that I want to discuss kind of a little bit more directly. So overall, really bullish day. A lot of interesting things going on for XRP. Hopefully you found the information in the video useful. Of course, you can like and subscribe if you did. Make sure to hit that notification bell if you found it useful and are wanting to stay notified for when I post new content. Also, if you have any comments, questions, anything like that, drop it in the comment section below. I would be interested to hear it kind of on your thoughts between this RLUSD XRP thing. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with it? What are your thoughts there? I'd be very interested to know. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.